And I'm here tonight to provide testimony regarding our application to operate a cannabis Class 2 manufacturing license at 47 Mill Street in compliance with the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission regulations. So I want to start by outlining my experience in the cannabis industry. So for the past 8 years, I've been deeply involved both as an advisor and also as an owner of cannabis businesses. My consulting firm called Evolve Advisors, my team and I have guided clients writing cannabis license applications, helping those businesses to launch and operate, and my cannabis consulting experience spans multiple states: Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Illinois, Maryland, Missouri, and Florida. And beyond consulting, I've launched 2 cannabis operations, including a dispensary in Boston, Massachusetts, which was launched in 2021, and a dispensary in Portland, Maine, which was launched in 2022 and sold this past October. So collectively, the More Love team has significant experience in cannabis, in manufacturing, in operations, strategy, finance, as well as marketing. So why Mount Holly? For over a year, the team has been diligently working to establish a cannabis manufacturing business right here in Mount Holly. We're drawn to Mount Holly for several reasons. One, because it's in fairly close proximity to our homes, and there's convenient access to the major highways for deliveries throughout the state. And then the fact that we'll be able to recruit and hire people right here from Mount Holly. The entire building at 47 Mill Street is being leased by the Voltaire dispensary, as was discussed earlier. Voltaire operates in the front portion of the building, and we will occupy the 4,600 square feet in the rear part of the building. This arrangement is mutually beneficial because More Love has a suitable space for this facility, and Voltaire benefits from the rental income as well as the opportunity to offer customers Voltaire branded products that we will produce for them on a discounted basis. So this symbiotic relationship bolsters Voltaire's sustainability in a pretty crowded market, and then it also enables the Voltaire owners just approve our application and are in support of us being here tonight.
I just want to hit one thing. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that Voltaire and More Love are
Yes, so outside of a sublease that More Love will have with Voltaire, there's no relationship except for us selling them discounted products so they can then put Voltaire's brand on some products that they offer in the dispensary, and in the process get a higher margin for those products that have the Voltaire brand.
There's no common ownership, there are no members of your LLC, there are members of their LLC?
No.
Okay, there's no intermediate, just a sublease and
the arrangement for discounted product.
Okay.
And sorry to interrupt, in terms of the mechanics of that relationship, this might again be a silly question, but if Voltaire were to buy product from One More Love, is that the sort of thing where it'll literally just go straight from the back door to the front door kind of thing?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, so they will be essentially one of our customers. Township benefits include our presence as in the town, and also the additional tax revenue that will be generated from the 2% sales receipt tax that More Love will pay on our gross receipts. So unlike dispensaries in Mount Holly that generate revenue solely from the sales of the people who come into their stores, we have the ability to have a statewide customer base, which theoretically should result in us having higher sales and being able to contribute more to the township. With regards to the interior building modifications required for our operation, the rear of the building is essentially a shell. So we will create.
This is A3? Yeah. Let me just mark it first. And this, we'll mark it and then we describe what it is and then you can talk about it.
A2?
This is A3. A1 was the front side of this, A2 is the back, and A3 is a proposed plan prepared for More Love New Jersey, Inc. It doesn't have a revision date. It has an only original date, 3/17/25.
Yeah. So
I'll hold it.
Okay, so we're gonna create a number of rooms in the space. So right now, this is all open, and these spaces exist. So we plan to have a mechanical room, an office, a gummy curing space. In this area, we will do gummy production as well as vape production. Pre-roll production, there'll be a bathroom for the staff. Everyone will come in this entrance, and then they will then go through our secure entrance to come into the facility. We'll have lockers here and a break room for staff. This open area will be for our component storage as well as our stickering and packaging and order preparation.
To interrupt briefly again, just for the record, the top of that is north? Meaning that, so the people where they're entering, they're
Yes.
entering towards the back of the
Yes,
building, or
top.
they're entering towards where Voltaire is
Yeah.
now?
Well,
Jake,
this is
Top
north,
is the
This is
back
north.
parking space.
This
Okay,
is south.
got it.
this is the
Yes.
side of the building and Voltaire is here.
So, okay, yeah, but they will be coming in, it's not from the back, it's sort of along the side, near
Exactly.
where the end of Voltaire's operation.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes. And then these spaces will be used for vaults. This space here will be open for our manufacturing operation. So we'll have the canning line, we'll have a depalletizer here, finished product staging, beverage component storage. This back area will be for beverage production once it is allowed by the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. So that's a point here. It's not, cannabis beverages are not currently in production in New Jersey. And we don't really know when that will happen.
can I share, let them see it? I'm gonna put this around so you guys can just see it.
while that's getting faster, and I do have another question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what we were talking about before, that relationship or the sales between One More Love and Voltaire got me thinking. So Mount Holly is it sounds like you already recognize this from your testimony. It's a very walkable town. It's a town that really does try to take pride in the quality of the environment. Are there any sort of regulations that require you to be delivering in a van or otherwise in a carbon emitting way? What I'm getting at is there a version of events where you are able to deliver product? I mean, we have 5 dispensaries in Mount Holly, 4 of them are going to be within walking distance of, if your facility is permitted, of your facility. Is this the sort of thing that can be delivered without contributing to traffic or carbon emissions in town, or are there legal requirements that, you gotta drive down the street in a van to make it
So
happen?
there are legal requirements for
Okay.
safety and prevention of diversion. So all deliveries will have to be done in a secure van with manifests that are produced in advance and delivered with product and signed off on. So it's very regulated.
And that is technically, and this is just more of a, for my own edification, but technically that's true even for Voltaire, right? It's gonna have to go into the back of a van, and then you're driving it from the back of the building to the front before you're dropping off, somewhere else.
Yes, likely.
Got it,
Yeah.
thank you.
So one other thing to mention about the build out is that it also includes the installation of a security system that will be in compliance with the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. All of the existing infrastructure, including water, sewer, and electric already exist. And as mentioned earlier, the water and sewer lines are sufficient for our use. So Leonardo touched on it earlier. Please note that for F1 use facilities, a sprinkler system is only required if the facility is more than 12,000 square feet or on a floor above or below grade. So we meet the IBC requirements for not having a sprinkler system. And then lastly, with regards to our build out, our MEP plans are nearly complete. And we anticipate that the build out will take 2 to 3 months. Operations. On a daily basis, we anticipate having at max 10 employees and a maximum of 8 employees per shift engaged in the production of gummies, vapes, pre-rolls, and beverages once that category is approved. That is at the maximum, so we will have a ramp up as we grow the business, we might get there. The dispensary has a maximum of 4 employees per shift. With regards to the delivery of raw materials, those will be scheduled between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Given the nature of our operations, we anticipate having 3 incoming deliveries per week, so not anything significant. And deliveries of our finished product will be packed in Sprinter vans and dispatched once per day during normal business hours. All incoming and outgoing deliveries can be efficiently managed using a single loading space. And as I mentioned, transport manifests are necessary for all cannabis-related deliveries. So we will have clear insight into the timing of those deliveries. Voltaire deliveries come in once or twice a week, and those are handled at the side entrance of the facility on the east side of the building. The existing conditions cause the narrow driveway on the west side of the building, so all of our delivery vehicles will be no larger than a Sprinter van, and they'll be able to exit through that existing exit. Our hours of operations will be from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and periodically we may be open on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Voltaire dispensary is open Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Friday and Saturdays from 10 to 9 p.m., and then on Sundays from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Our employees, as well as the dispensary employees, will park in the municipal parking lot, which will leave all of the on-site parking available to Voltaire customers. Light fixtures will be illuminated from dusk to first light each day and will comply with the Cannabis Regulatory Commission guidance, which insists that cannabis facilities maintain well-lit exterior areas to deter criminal activity and to ensure proper video surveillances of entrances and exits. Our products that we intend to manufacture are beverages, gummies, vapes, and pre-rolls. I'm going to walk you through the production process. The beverage production process for carbonated beverages begins with the treatment of water to ensure its purity. Then sweeteners, acids, flavors, preservatives, and cannabis distillate are dissolved and blended into the water in a bright tank. The bright tank is cooled with a mixture of glycol and water by an industrial chiller. Carbon dioxide is then infused into the beverage to create the desired carbonation level. And then lastly, the liquid is then, through the canning line, fills the cans. Then it's seamed and packaged into cardboard boxes for distribution. The gummy production process begins by mixing raw materials like pectin, sugar, syrup, distillate, natural flavors, sodium citrate, and colorants to create a syrup, which is then heated on an electric induction cooktop to activate the gelatin. The warm mixture is poured into a gummy depositor, which then fills the molds and the shape of the gummies. The filled molds are set to the side for cooling and curing. And then once it's all set, then those gummies are demolded, they're sprinkled with sugar or citric acid, and then they're packaged for distribution. Our vape filling process starts by taking a tray of vape cartridges, placing them on a tabletop in front of the vape filling machine. Cannabis distillate is then released through the nozzles of the vape filling machine into the vape cartridges, and then the mouthpieces of the cartridges are mounted, and then everything is packed and ready for distribution. For pre-rolls, ground cannabis that's been coated with terpenes, and terpenes are a compound that can come from a plant or a fruit, and it represents like the flavor and the smell. Those the ground cannabis coated with terpenes are loaded into pre-rolled paper cones using a tabletop machine called a knock box to ensure that they're filled evenly, and then we tamp it down for optimal density. So then the pre-rolls are weighed for consistency, sealed at the open end, and then packaged for distribution. The packaging materials we'll utilize for these products include cans, child-resistant lids, tins, paper sleeves, and cardboard boxes. So based on what I've described, I know it's a lot of information, you can see that it's a pretty simple process. It's not complex manufacturing. The use of glycol and CO2 tanks is a really important part of our beverage production process. So we'll be using CO2 to carbonate our beverages and glycol to maintain precise temperature control. The glycol chiller and bulk CO2 tank will both be located outside of the building on a 10 by 20 concrete pad. To ensure safety, we're committed to adhering to all of the fire code and safety requirements. So we'll place bollards around the tanks for protection. We'll replace the wheel stops for parking spaces at the rear of the building. CO2 sensors and alarms will be installed to detect any elevated CO2 levels, which provides both audible and visual alerts in the event of a leak. The tanks will be securely anchored and placed at a safe distance from potential ignition sources. Appropriate safety signage will be prominently displayed, warning personnel of the presence of CO2 and glycol and providing clear emergency response instructions. All staff will undergo comprehensive training in the safe handling of CO2 and glycol systems, as well as how to respond to potential emergencies. Then regular inspections and maintenance will be conducted to ensure ongoing operational readiness for all the safety systems. Letter from the fire chief and code officials, and our submission package includes that letter from the fire chief, Thomas Mason. In his letter, he states that because of limited space and safety concerns, fire trucks and equipment would not be placed directly on 47 Mill Street during an emergency, but instead would operate from surrounding areas such as Mill Street or the municipal lot, or possibly even the Quick Mart that's next door to the east. Additionally, in the letter, he notes that he understands that we plan to install the CO2 and glycol tanks, and that the safety requirements will be determined by the appropriate construction and code officials. The submission package also includes a letter from the Mount Holly construction code official and the fire sub-code official. They both understand that More Love's planned installation of the glycol and CO2 tanks will include protective measures such as bollards, CO2 sensors, alarms, secure anchoring, safety signage, training, and inspections in order to comply with the New Jersey building codes and safety standards, including NFPA 55 and the International Fire Code for hazardous material storage and handling. Environmental impact, we've carefully considered the potential negative externalities from our manufacturing process, particularly concerning odor control. The manufacturing processes for More Love's cannabis-infused beverages, vapes, gummies, and pre-rolls are designed to minimize odor emissions and prevent any air quality impacts. Not extracting on site. So unlike other manufacturers, we're not taking cannabis flower and making oil out of it. Instead, we are using purchased cannabis distillate for the beverages, gummies, and vapes. So the distillate is highly refined and virtually odorless, which ensures that no strong cannabis aromas are released during production. Pre-roll production does utilize ground cannabis flower. So for that, our facility will implement air filtration and ventilation systems, including activated carbon filters to effectively capture and neutralize any airborne particulates or odors. Given these controlled processes and mitigation measures, odors from our facility will be minimal and will not pose a nuisance to neighboring properties. In addition, the equipment that will be utilized during the manufacturing process will not produce noise that is above permitted levels. So I ask that you just reference the environmental impact letter that's in your package as well. If you have any additional questions with regards to the environmental impact. The security is of paramount importance for our operations. We've developed a comprehensive security plan which we can share with the board in accordance with the Cannabis Control Commission requirements to safeguard deliveries and to prevent theft or diversion of cannabis products. So every delivery will be strictly controlled with access granted only to pre-approved vendors and transporters. All deliveries will be scheduled in advance and verified by management upon arrival. Drivers will be required to check in, present their identification, and be escorted by authorized personnel at all times while in the facility. Deliveries will be received in a designated area under continuous video surveillance to prevent any unauthorized access or tampering. All cannabis storage areas will be protected by advanced security measures, including encrypted keycard access, a 24/7 high-definition surveillance, alarm systems with automatic low enforcement alarm systems with automatic law enforcement notifications. Vault rooms will have cameras covering all angles and only authorized personnel will be permitted entry. Inventory tracking will be updated through a seed to sale system, which ensures full accountability at every stage of the production process. Lastly, all employees will undergo strict security training on loss, theft, or discrepancies. Any discrepancies will be reported to the regulatory body within 24 hours. With regards to our operating plan, we're committed to compliance and will comply with all state regulations as
I'd like to
well.
mark that as A5, the operating plan.
The operating plan is marked as A5, which we will share with you as well. So we'll comply with all state regulations as well as the Mount Holly requirements, including sales tax receipts, the reporting requirements that you mentioned, Solicitor Garrity as well. The More Love team has significant experience operating in the regulated cannabis market and will adhere to all applicable rules and guidelines. We've developed an operating plan as part of our license application, and that provides an overview of our qualifications, our experience, our manufacturing expertise, our plans for quality control, recall, waste disposal, packaging, labeling, inventory control, water management, odor mitigation, record keeping, formulations, and raw material sourcing. The operating plan prioritizes sustainability and quality control, and we are dedicated to ethical, sustainable, and compliant cannabis manufacturing in New Jersey. Trash disposal is the next category. So the trash dumpsters that are currently on the property service the dispensary as well as the neighboring tenant, Beacon of Hope Food Pantry. The dumpsters will be removed from the property. Instead of using dumpsters, we will store waste and recycling in the 10 by 13 foot storage area, which is attached to the rear corner of the building. Our cleaning service will then remove this waste and recycling. Voltaire has also agreed to manage their waste and recycling in this manner. Our trash will primarily consist of cardboard and plastic, and we anticipate the equivalent of a 3-yard bin, which will be picked up and disposed of bi-weekly. As it relates to cannabis waste, the New Jersey Regulatory Commission requires that cannabis license holders manage cannabis waste by either incinerating it at an authorized facility or rendering it unrecoverable and disposing of it as solid waste or compost. And to do this, we have to follow specific procedures in order to prevent diversion. More likely to maintain detailed records of the destruction or disposal of this type of waste. For signage, we were proposed to install 2 small aluminum signs on the exterior of the existing building. The signs will be mounted on the side of the building for wayfaring and next to our delivery entrance at the rear of the building. The signs will be made of 0.04 gauge aluminum, which is chosen for its durability and cost effectiveness. The signs will denote building with white lettering on a black background for maximum visibility. They'll be securely mounted to the building facade using 4-corner screws and a weather-resistant cap.
We have 1 sign or 2 signs?
2 signs.
And they're wayfaring, you say?
Loading, sorry, I guess wayfaring is not the proper.
So it's not like a business sign,
No, it's not. It doesn't
They
say
won't be
so.
branded or loved, they'll just provide
So it's
directions.
direction.
Yes.
They're less than 2 square feet or less.
They are measuring 12 inches high by 18 inches wide, and the total area of the signs will be 1.5 square feet. They will not be illuminated because they're just intended for daytime use by delivery personnel. So it's designed to be functional, unobtrusive, and serving solely to guide vendors to the correct delivery location. And they'll comply with all local ordinances and impose minimal visual impact to the surrounding area. In closing, More Love is dedicated to being a responsible and valuable member of the Mount Holly community. We're confident that our proposed cannabis manufacturing business will not only generate tax revenue for the township, but will also create jobs and contribute to the economic vitality of the township. In addition, the symbiotic relationship between Voltaire and More Love will increase the likelihood of Voltaire's sustainability. So thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just so you're not gonna add any more parking to this facility because you're gonna park in the back?
Yes.
Correct.
And the parking is adequate now for Voltaire, so it should function?
They
Yes.
have more than enough parking.
Yes. But they have also agreed to have their employees park in the municipal lot.
Okay.
Drive by Voltaire, you'll see that there are never many cars in their parking. So I don't anticipate there could ever be a point in time where 11 or 12 parking spaces were full, unless perhaps they were having some sort of special event.
Like Friday.
So Friday, yes, so I want to address number 14 as well. So on Friday, they had an event which was a screening for candidates who wanted to be, I guess.
Casting call.
Yes, a casting call for candidates who were trying to be part of a production. So there were 300 people who came through during that day, and I know that the township, based on the conversation with the owners of Voltaire, was aware of this event, and I think it was even published on the township website. And there will never be, as the owner told me, there will never be an event that's that large for them. So that was an abnormality.
I'll attest that, just confirm what you said, the township was made aware of the event.
I'm sure they were.
Okay.
It was
I
all
would- I-
just,
Did
I
any
just
of
happened-
you guys,
I mean, I only,
did
I
any of you
was,
guys
I
show
was,
up to get in the
I was
movies?
down by to looking at the lights, and I pulled in, I'm like, what's going on?
So are we gonna see the movies? Did you stop by and?
I did not get out of my car.
Hopefully you exited the right way.
Yes, I did.
I might have missed it, but is the driveway private property, or is it with no right of way for the family services that are there?
You are correct.
It is, it's private.
Yes, it's private property, but Beacon of Hope has been using the drive aisle. They have been parking in,
Took advantage of the building being vacant for so many years, overextended themselves because there was no challenge. Basically, that was my experience.
So these folks will be able to drive around to still access where they've been parking, or is it trespassing?
that's something that the landlord will need to take up with the neighboring law.
We're not gonna take a position on that. I would, a couple of months ago, I would have told you it shouldn't be an issue, but
Is that?
I'm not gonna take a position on it.
I've seen it pretty much a madhouse there when they're giving away food. The enforcement, I guess Scott's gonna hear about that.
That's my concern with the narrow space, and
Oh, yeah, it's real narrow. Since you went into such, fine details here, the security system, you mentioned the alarm system, will that have a primary and a secondary, or will it have cell backup if the lines get cut, in other words?
Cannabis Regulatory Commission has very, very strict requirements on having available footage. We have to store footage for a certain number of days so it can be accessed. They have to have real-time access to our cameras. Everything is cloud-based, so it's pretty extensive.
Is there a battery backup if
So
somebody
that's,
has?
the question is still, if it doesn't have cell backup, then that was my line of business for 36 years, so I'm real familiar with providing service for, secure government classified buildings.
Yes,
And, once the line is cut, if you do not have a cell backup, and then that's it.
yeah. So you know what, Carolyn, do you remember? Do we have a cell backup? Like a battery backup for our security system?
For security
I know
system,
there's a battery backup, I don't know if there's a cell backup.
yeah, I don't know, I don't think cell backup is, from what we've been told from the professional that we're using, that's not in place, but there is a server on site that can store additional footage if for any reason there was an issue.
I do not believe that we have a cellular backup. Or the power goes out, but I do not believe we have a cell to transfer. We have a hard drive on the site, that's what I do a lot of this around state, and that's what everybody has.
She just wants to make sure nobody,
Oh, okay,
Well,
She's coming back, yeah.
okay.
She just wants to make sure
We'll wait,
nobody falls in the dark.
We'll wait.
Sorry, yeah, I
You should wait.
Yeah, we'll wait.
we're having a safety.
Well, and also we're getting some testimony by somebody who's.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring my person.
And also wasn't really on.
We'll fix that.
Yeah, some of these questions really would be a professional that would answer them. I don't mean to take advantage of that, you're up at the mic there, but standing there, so that's where the question.
You know,
Okay, so I can share that with you, so we do have a battery backup.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask
Yes.
about. Now, what exactly does that mean, a battery backup? What's the duration?
I want to say it's for 4 hours, but I must admit, I'm not positive.
It's
If
it's not a generator, it's actually batteries.
Yes, yes.
The other thing I was wondering is, you do have a relationship with Voltaire. What about the other 4 dispensaries that are licensed in the town?
So there's a possibility that we'll sell to those cannabis dispensaries as well, but sort of reserve the right. Our model includes focusing on specific types of dispensaries in order to service them, and we won't be all things to everyone. There are 271 dispensaries, and given our size, we won't be able to service all of them. We won't be able to manage marketing and sales for that many dispensaries, so we do need to be selective.
This is from your prior,
Sure.
businesses and whether the township can expect or hope for local
Yeah, so
hiring
our
initiatives.
Our goal is to hire as many people locally as possible. Through the consulting practice, we have significant experience hiring. One of our first clients, cannabis clients in Pennsylvania, back in 2018 or 2019, we hired 400 people for them within a year-long period. So our process involves initial screenings, sharing information in a broad enough way to bring people in who are diverse in all different ways, and that is still important to us. And we have the screening processes, we have multiple rounds of interviews to ensure that people are the right fit, and then we have significant training once they're hired.
And they all have to clear, they have to
Yes.
clear some type of CRC.
There are background checks that are required.
Significant,
Yes,
security.
yes, it's not a small undertaking, so
Yeah.
they'll have to be badged, they have to pass background checks. And there are some exceptions for people who have convictions, but it is a rigorous process.
just make sure to provide us with a copy of exhibit A3 tomorrow electronically.
Yes, 1, 2, and 3 will be electronic tomorrow.
We can have the hard copies.
And I'll also submit electronically 4 and 5, so
Thank
you have it, but I gave it to you tonight.
Thanks.
Exterior bin, is there a bin outside or something, storage?
No,
No?
just the shed,
The shed, the
the
part of the
10 by,
building?
yes,
Correct.
exactly,
So the bin will be in the shed.
yes,
Okay, that's all right.
Or-
It's
or-
in your bin, but the bin's in the shed.
yes.
And Voltaire, their deliveries are being conducted where?
Once or twice a week, and that side entrance.
But where are they parking their delivery vehicle?
Well, they don't have their own delivery vehicle, they receive deliveries
Okay, so they receive deliveries and they park into the drive aisle?
in one of the spots.
They park in one of the parking spots?
Yes, and then do the delivery, and then leave.
And it's a van, it's something small?
Yes,
I don't know if you've ever
They
seen,
can't use your delivery,
they could.
space in the back here?
they could if we asked them to, if we would like that.
Well, for security, they like to pull up the closest.
Closest door.
For security reasons, so they're on camera, less chance of someone overtaking their vehicle.
Do I have any further questions for this witness, Mr. Chairman? Do I have any further questions for this witness, Mr. Chairman?
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for this witness from the board or its professionals at this time? Seeing none,
Thanks.
testimony can be concluded.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
goes to. My last witness this evening, Mr. I'm sorry.
She just provided testimony regarding noise. We have a professional providing testimony on that, or is that testimony that we're getting?
That's the testimony you're getting.
So, we've got a pretty extensive report, which I reviewed and had a number of comments in here. Eric would provide testimony regarding it, specifically regarding noise. There was a statement in there, that the report states that additional noise baffling and physical barrier may be installed to reduce noise. So I don't know what the board's feeling on that is. I mean, they obviously have to comply with the noise requirements of the state. So noise is like something you can get violated. Tested, like, do a noise study afterwards, after we get all the equipment out there.
Well, I
I'm
think-
recommending that, there wasn't any testimony that you would do the noise, the after,
Yeah, so I think there are two things. I think number one, let me step to my phone. I think there's two things. So, there's, the only thing that we think is gonna make noise is the canning operation. And so that's kind of a secondary piece. The first manufacturing, the pre-rolls and the gummies, that doesn't make any
Yeah,
noise.
but that's
at all.
inside, I'm talking about exterior noises. So the report stated that, you had noises related to the chiller, and noises related to your HVAC equipment.
That is correct.
So, they have a statement in that report saying that, additional bathrooms may be required. So who's gonna determine that? How are we gonna know that it's done?
By a noise analysis at the property line to show that it complies with state law. No problem.
At what point, how do you want to define that?
Prior to CO,
Prior to CO?
yeah,
Condition of CO?
that's right.
Great, thank you. See the swearing of the next witness. Or I'm sorry, I don't know who would be introducing the next witness, I should say.
I will. My last witness of the evening is Stuart Hall. He's our professional planner. And he can get sworn in. He's got some planning testimony to address your planning report.
Mr. Hawk, you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this board?
I do.
And Mr. Hawk has appeared before several planning boards that I've been witness to and has been accepted by all of them, yes.
That's great.
So,
Is he accepted by this board?
I've been licensed for over 30 years,
And
American
so-
Institute of Certified Planners. The license is in good standing, practicing planning since 1988, and I've been involved with probably 5,000 applications by that time, either as a reviewer or as a consultant. That's a nice round number. Well, it's over that.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawk, I know you've had a chance to review listen to the applicant's case this evening. I know you've had a chance to review the board professionals' planning analysis and the engineer's report. And I'd like you to walk through the rationale for the board being able to grant the variances and deviations that we're asking for this evening.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I got to hear all the testimony tonight from the prior witnesses. I got to hear the back and forth and the exchange of ideas. It was really refreshing to hear some of the constructive analysis and the responses at the board tonight. I'm familiar with the site, I'm familiar with the plan, familiar with the ordinance and the area, so I'm ready to testify on what is necessary for a D1 variance. And when I first took the job, I was excited because I'm usually very excited about adaptive reuse, situations. To me, they really are the essence of good planning because you don't have to build brand new and tear down woods and go into green fields. You can utilize space that already has had resources and energy and capital spent on them, and to use that, it's a great thing. So I don't take every adaptive reuse case because sometimes I don't believe in them, but in this case I really did. And that came from simply seeing talking to the client and dealing with the business plan and how it would operate, that it's a very low intensity use. And the fact that you're gonna have 3 to 4 deliveries of products a week, that's not an hour or a day, that's a week. And you're gonna have 5 vans going out with product a week. That's really, you could fall asleep trying to track that if you were sitting in the parking lot, because you're not gonna see much activity. And I thought that was great. I thought, when I looked at the plan at first and I saw the size of the building in relation to the property, it's a pretty big building in relation to the property, but it was probably, goes back to the time when you mentioned that Mount Holly is a very walkable town. There was probably a lot of employees that did not have to park, and they didn't worry about parking back then. The building first shows up in a 1950 aerial, so it was probably a time when people walked to work, and it was a factory use of some sort. There was a building addition in the 1956 aerial, which adds to the back of the building, and there was actually a silo behind the building, and that silo disappeared in the 1963 aerial. So there was probably an industrial aspect to this site at one time. And now how do you reuse this building in a good way? The dispensary is a permitted use. You allowed it through your ordinances, and now the manufacturing part, taking up this back 4,500 or so square feet, is not a permitted use. But I'm gonna go through the proofs, and you're gonna see, especially at the end of my testimony, how this isn't much different than some uses that are approved or permitted. Site suitability wise, one thing I really like about this building is that it's a block building, so that lends itself to being sanitary and clean for the food processing use that will take place there. So that is helpful. Obviously, I already talked about it, the low intensity of the use also makes the site suitable because it doesn't rely on parking. We can capitalize on the shared parking by utilizing the municipal lot, which you don't always have. And it also complements the dispensary, the fact that we can go into a building and then have a customer that we can service without the need for any kind of vehicles and well, in this case, we may have to pull a van around several feet and then unload, but it's still, there's some synergy capitalized in that way. And then with light, odor, and noise, it's a downtown location, so the downtown locations are sensitive to that, but we are gonna have low amounts on all of those, as you saw in our report, and as we will agree to comply with whatever standards are necessary. So I feel that there is site suitability. That meets purpose A, which is the general welfare, through the Cole case. Whenever you find that the site is suitable, it does meet the general welfare. I think it also meets the general welfare because it promotes more people downtown. These employees that come here, they're not gonna just drive in, or some of them may walk in, but they're not gonna just go to work and then go home. They're gonna patronize businesses, they're gonna get a bite to eat maybe in the morning, they may go out for lunch, they may invite a friend to meet them at work and then get something after. So I think that there's a general welfare promotion in that regard too, with the fact that there'll be potentially 10 employees here doing those activities, putting more feet on the street, so to speak. I also think that purpose J, which is no further degradation to the environment, will be met. How often do you see a downtown location where you're gonna have plantings added to the site? And we are gonna take your planning professional's advice on species, and we're gonna add some plantings to the site. We get the benefit of the shared parking, which I think is a great thing. You have black asphalt already there. It's creating heat. I heard someone talk about heat island. Well, we don't have to create any more black asphalt. We can utilize some existing, and it's great when you can do that, and it's better for the environment. And then the reduced vehicle trips by providing a product to the dispensary, I think helps the environment as well. Purpose M, an efficient use of the land. We have a large building. and a smaller site, we're utilizing now with this adaptive reuse of this vacant space in the back, we're efficiently using the land and the site, so I think that's also met. So that's what's on the positive side. I think there's some pretty good weight to that, and especially when you compare it to the things on the negative side that are very minimal. And they're supposed to be not substantial. It's not like you can't have any impairment at all or any detriment, but you can't have substantial impairment or detriment, and I'm gonna go through that. But when you have these positives that I just talked about, that's what they're weighed against, and it makes them not substantial and not substantial detriment. So the first prong of the negative criteria is no substantial detriment to the public good. How does it affect the neighborhood? How does it change, if it does change the character of the neighborhood? And when I think about that, I think about what's gonna be the net effect of what's happening here. We're gonna have the 11 trips per week, 11 vehicle trips, with the 3 to 4 coming in and the 5 going out. And I would say maybe another 2 for the cleaning service, coming in and out. There's not gonna be any change to the character of the building or the shape of the building. There's not gonna be a commercial sign. There'll be 2 signs that'll be wayfinding signs or identifying loading areas. So the net effect of this building already exists, the net effect of what's gonna happen as a result of our operation is not gonna change the character of the neighborhood and will not rise to the level of substantial detriment to the public good. With regards to the second prong of the negative criteria, no substantial impairment of the zone plan or zoning ordinance. There is an interesting aspect to your ordinance, and it kind of talks to the aspect of the fact that, you know, you have the regular uses that are allowed in the downtown, offices, retail, restaurants, those types of uses. But it also allows some industrial type uses. Even though there's an initial prohibition on industry, it says if the industry type is small enough and it has 2 tests, it can actually be a permitted use in this zone. And it specifically lists laundries, bakeries, printing shops, and dry cleaning establishments and other businesses which meet 2 criteria: 10 or less employees, or any kind of equipment that's utilized in those businesses, 10 horsepower or less. So in our case, the maximum amount of employees that we're gonna have is 10, we meet that standard. And our chiller is 3.5 horse, and our canning machine is 4.6 horse. So we actually meet the intent, I think, of what your ordinance recognizes that you are gonna have a bakery sometimes that's gonna have some equipment with a retail component. And so that's what we're having. The enhanced burden of proof, I don't think the municipality realized in crafting this ordinance that there is gonna be cannabis production or could be cannabis production. Your ordinance does say or other businesses, and I would think it would fit in that, but they could have listed a cannabis manufacturing facility in the ordinance. So it definitely doesn't do substantial impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance. And that's all I have on the use variance testimony. I feel that the positives have a heavy weight to them, and they definitely don't allow either of the negative prongs to rise to the level of substantial. I could go over some of the parking and C variances if you'd like. With regards to parking, you have a large building on a small lot that doesn't have the potential for parking, and 2 great uses in this building. One that hardly requires any parking at all, and that would be our use and doesn't have any traffic. And then the other one being the dispensary, which is handling itself. Now, we're gonna commit to the employees parking on the municipal lot and even further reducing the parking demand. It's really hard to craft an ordinance and have that ordinance meet every single site and have it be perfect for parking ratios and fit each site. So that's why you're here. You're here as a board to decide these specific cases and to say, yeah, there's not gonna be much of a parking demand, even though our ordinance requires it, and even though there's this oversized building on this small lot. So I think that carries the burden for benefits outweighing the detriments. And then I believe there's a variance, I don't know if it's called out as a variance, but the loading space amount, 2 versus 1. And you've heard about the amount of deliveries, the fact that there's so few deliveries, it would be probably unbelievable that there would be 2 deliveries at the same time. You also heard the testimony about the fact that the deliveries for the dispensary would be on one side of the building in the smaller vans, and then our deliveries would be in the back corner. So the need doesn't really arise for those 2 loading spots on this site, and just to have one. I think it's also beneficial to have as many parking spaces as possible with the other space. So I think I may have covered all the C variances, unless you need more testimony, or you have any other item.
You got it.
Okay. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You know, you talked about beneficial aspects as opposed to detrimental aspects. And they talked about cross easements and things like that earlier in variances. And it wasn't until Mr. Dow mentioned the idea, mentioned that the property next door, which is a benefit for many of the people in the community, provide food, to obtain food and clothing. And it was mentioned that somebody, you weren't absolutely sure how the owner of the property was rectify that in the future. I'm a little concerned now about not looking further into the easements, because it might just have a cross easement to get to the rear of their property. And they're obviously not in a condition to investigate it. So if someone stops them from getting access to it, you know, a nonprofit is not gonna have the money to look into it. So I'm wondering if maybe consider if we would like to provide a variance for that particular issue and have that as a condition that we could see the impact next door. Because if they can't use the access to the rear where there's stuff, they store their stuff, they're gonna have to stop operating.
So we don't have the authority to make that decision. And I'm, to be quite honest, I'm not sure this board has the authority to make that decision, but we definitely can't enforce that.
I'm not asking you to.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is investigate the easements and cross easements.
That's an off-site, that's an off-site condition that is up to the other entity to get clearance from. I mean,
Well, we
We-
just waived that, right?
No.
Or we're going to waive
no, there was,
them investigating on their side whether they had it.
there was a question raised based upon some of the dimensions. They cleared that up with testimony in terms of, they also cleared up because the employees aren't gonna have to park on the site and that types of things.
Looking at cross easements.
I think
We asked them to get a cross easement, but they couldn't get.
Showing the survey.
I asked you.
Prepared. Yeah, well, actually, we asked for an easement to widen the driveway.
That's
Now,
But
yeah, I
what
mean,
I'm saying
cross
is maybe-
access, cross access is an issue, right? They're not, I don't, that they're obligated to provide.
No, I'm not saying. Saying maybe there exist one already that we properly to see if there's any.
well,
Yeah, that goes back to the checklist. And they,
yeah, I mean, and the question is whether, because they said they didn't look at whether there's recorded easements.
Yeah.
So we could, what do you think about reporting back?
I'm,
About whether there's an existence of recorded easements, understanding, you know.
I think there are two issues you're trying to deal with. I mean, if you tell me I gotta go out and deposit your title, I guess I can do that.
No, you can just,
But I'm not, but I think the question is for us as operators, you know, we're not, what's happening next door doesn't impact us. We actually don't care. So I don't know how it's gonna be impacted because us trying to work through this application, I think had some conversations between our landlord and the landlord for the adjacent property. All three of us are renting.
Yes.
The cannabis retailer, us, and the nonprofit are all renting. There are two landlords and they've owned the property
I
for
understand,
a long
I think
time.
maybe I'm not making myself clear. What I'm saying is that we waived, or we're thinking of waiving the condition that you are under to investigate any cross easements or things on the property that you're situated on right now. I'm saying the property next door is a for-profit entity that's providing benefits to the town. And if they don't know they have an easement, they're never going to find it out because they don't have the kind of money or the expertise to do it. And I think that we have an obligation to find out if there's an way for them to access the rear of their property to continue in operation or to whatever they're going to do.
but they don't control, this applicant doesn't control that.
No, I know that,
But also, I mean, as much as we may like that operation, that's that with their landlord and whatever area, I mean,
Just to chime in here, I mean, I have a soft spot for nonprofits as anyone, but just because we're short of resources, I mean, I personally don't think that means it's incumbent on us to do the legal work that it's incumbent on them to be doing.
but we're waiving that, which is normally what this applicant could have
I
to
mean,
do.
well, we're renting it, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is we're waiving it because they don't own the property, there's nothing for them to control. If the people next door have an issue, right, if they have an issue with access, that is ultimately one for the facts to develop and two for them to bring to our, at a certain point, we're not their lawyers, right? There's only so much work that we can be doing
That's correct.
for, and there is and they could have shown up tonight, Frank. I mean, I don't want to belittle where they're coming from, but at a certain point, it becomes conjecture as to what their actual priorities and issues are. And I personally am not sure that it's the best use of board resources, but I do defer to the board in that respect.
Well, Mr. Adler,
Paved driveway.
Mr. Adler was asking that the applicant do deed research, not.
Well, so I think, right, and I think this was something that was brought up, but I think there's two different issues here, right? To the extent that we want to have the applicant do that research, I think that's perfectly reasonable. But in terms of, there was a question about, well, does this mean that they're not gonna be able to go from the front door to the back, going around the side? And that's where I think the question, that is something that should be negotiated between the landlords, but there's only so much a tenant can do from that position.
right, so let's say that instead of getting full title report, which, you don't wanna get, they can look at publicly recorded deeds. And what if there's an easement listed on there? They don't have any ability
Yeah,
to control it.
we don't have dominion and control.
Yeah.
We have a non-exclusive utilization
Right.
of the property. So I don't have control over anything, good or bad. So that's the point.
Yeah, even if they find out there is or isn't an easement, so then what are they gonna do?
Well, they're not going to do anything.
But that's,
Yeah,
again,
they can have the ability to still access the property. That's,
and the along the building and the portion between Beacon of Hope and there. I'm just asking.
That was what was testified to before, that the whole thing is a private lot, that it's under the
All that,
residential
okay, that's, I just wanted to make sure, that's what I thought, I just wanted to. So that paved portion belongs to the Voltaire building.
I can say.
Yeah.
Between there and.
That's my understanding.
Well, I'm gonna say this.
Yeah, they would, that's really on Voltaire, it's a building, right?
I would say this, and that is, wouldn't it be possible for, well, the property owner's not here. So right now, we're talking to a company that's subleasing. But what I'm going to say is, wouldn't the property owner be able to provide what I asked earlier, the easement, or the right to use that driveway to access that business? Because what Mr. Adams is saying is straight up, it's basically putting them out of business,
But that's,
because all their stuff is in the back of that.
but that's an off-site condition, which this board is not really permitted to require. Because the off-site is the beacon. And that's on them to, you know, we wanna encourage them to work with the land, impose that on this tenant.
And not, I'm sorry. So what you're saying is that we don't have the authority to squeeze them into doing this by saying we won't grant them the waiver if they don't do this, because we can't do that, because it's not on them, they're not the property owners, and we're kind of blackmailing them or something, I guess.
I'm not even going to say it's a benefit, and maybe I'm going too far. What I'm doing, there's a benefit for the town.
Absolutely.
At that property. And we've waived, the applicant from investigating something that might show that there is an easement that this property could use and have. That's all I'm saying. They don't have to do anything.
But to be frank, that was really on Voltaire, because they created the property lines, the paved asphalt, it's really not on them, correct, would you say?
Voltaire doesn't own the building either.
on their land.
the land.
Voltaire doesn't,
Whoever the landlord is, whoever that's what I meant, it's not.
Well, and that's,
Whoever the landlord of the building has already established.
and I'm concerned, and I'm very privileged that I don't know enough about Beacon of Hope's operations, but I'm also trying to understand fundamentally what prevents them from just walking through the building from the back to the front. Why do they need to go outside to move stuff in the first place? I mean, and this is all to say, there might be a good reason, but we can't sit here speaking for Beacon of Hope and making decisions and being their lawyers. I mean, there's actually a lot of paths forward here for Beacon of Hope, but it's also not, I personally don't think it's on us to step into their shoes
I'm
here.
new to the board, so how long has Voltaire been there, right? They've been there for
Something like
Right,
that.
so there's been
Maybe
no,
more,
there's been no
time-wise,
issues
yeah.
between the building, the current building owner and Beacon of Hope
That's a
for a
good
year
point.
and a half.
Yeah.
Right,
But the Voltaire hasn't executed anything as far as one way. I mean, this picture right here hasn't gone on in one.
That's the right one. I don't know if they're gonna be changing, but that's.
Aren't they going around the right and coming out, right?
Well,
Do I have that mixed up?
but I've made my statement. I think, if we wanna, I don't need this discussed anymore. Any, myself or anybody else. This is what I said, that's this.
Tables. You know what I'm saying? What the heck is this? I open this can of worms, but I don't want to close it. Okay. All right, well, I don't have anything
I don't wanna
else.
drag it out.
It's a legitimate concern, but.
Well, you mentioned me when you brought it up too, so it all was fair, you know? You said, Mr. Dow, you brought me into.
I'd like to get back to productive proceedings here. So, any questions for the applicant, any comments? Is there anything else the comment would like to bring to our attention?
I have no further witnesses, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I do have one more question, and it goes to the easement, it goes to this photo, and just out of curiosity, because I'm, really trying to, remember what the setup is back there, but this bridge and this walkway that goes to the municipal parking lot, does that entirely fall into the back of this property? Which means, is that now exclusive to the Voltaire property? I never noticed it before. You're mentioning how they're gonna use the back parking lot for their employees. And it drew me to the fact that, I don't know.
I mean, I think as long as if it's municipal, it should remain municipal.
There's still a right of way through that
It's been there since.
forever.
Right. This would not privatize anything.
Right.
The access over the waterway was done recently. Just from the public municipal lot to the downtown area from the parking lot in that direction without everybody having to walk all the way around.
Just for clarity of the record though, as we proceed, I mean, do we, are we feeling about this easement question? Is that something we'd like to include as a condition of approval, or is that something that we are okay with? This issue with the cross easements and whatnot, is that something that the board is interested in having researched and having additional documentation brought to our attention if there are easements, or if there are deeds showing any existing easements, or how would we like to proceed on that front?
Those are public documents. Even if the board wants to find them.
Right. For the benefit of the record though, is this something, it sounds like we're not gonna do a full title search, that's not something that we're interested in. Oh, so just making sure that if that's not something we're interested in doing, then we can put it to rest. So, okay, seeing no comments or questions there, I suppose we now open the floor to public comment on the application. And I do remind the public that all comments should be on the application before us. When you reach the podium, please state your name and your address for the record.
Very ready. Go ahead, Mike.
Happy Monday again. Rain Taylor Ford, 117 Grand Street, Mount Holly.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this board?
I do.
And just, you started to speak into the microphone, that's helpful, thank
Can
you.
you guys hear me? Okay, much better. Yeah, you can hear me. Thank you for being here. It's late, everyone. Thank you very much. Long night. I'm just curious, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Frank. Thank you, Rich. I'm just curious because it was a very well-written statement. Very well. I commend you. Very well-written statement, okay? My concern is a physically engaged active citizen, as the lawyers told me at the League of Municipalities, New Jersey. My main concern is, when do we stop here in town? Lieutenant Bailey sat there earlier and he made a statement about, is this a manufacturer or grower? This is a lieutenant, and he's still confused. I'm just a resident here, military resident, I'm still very confused. So my question again is, it is viable for them to move next door to Voltaire. It is great business for them. They're marketing everywhere. Why do they need to come across the bridge to Mount Holly? Okay, why Mount Holly? She has a business in Massachusetts, she just closed one or sold one in Maine. So is it exit 5? Because we've had this problem since COVID. Everyone rushing here to Mount Holly because of our access to New York, to Philly, to wherever, because of the access, and when you're on the turnpike. That's my concern, okay? My other concern, speaking of hope, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, okay? It does matter. It is good neighbors. They're here, they said they're promoting things in this town, they want to bring community and love to this town. You're gonna disrupt this whole town by not just reaching out to that nonprofit. These people have money. I have negative $57 in my bank account on any day, and I do everything, and I'm still doing stuff, okay? That is not right to those residents. Those people are elders, okay? And maybe you guys, somebody made a comment about the traffic. I don't know who rides around here, but there's more than 11 cars on any given night over there at Voltaire. There's more than 11 cars, okay?
In the parking lot?
In the parking lot, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, given certain days of the week, there are more than 11 cars there. And not only that, the crowd of people that's there. So I understand what I'm trying to learn about how manufacturers work, okay? But if they're going up and they're coming down, what happens when they have the security? Those elderly people, if people here are not aware, because I don't know how many, I know most of you live around town, they lean on that building while they're waiting for their food. They're lounging on the building, they're standing in front of the building. What amends have we made for this? Because this is good neighbor, this is good business neighbor, to reach out to your neighbor, your business neighbor, and to even ask simple questions like this. To a nonprofit that's been in this town, I understand they don't own anything. I'm just learning that all three businesses are in fact rented or leased, whatever it is. But again, they've been here, they serve a grave community need, grave. And to me, not, did anybody tell them? And I understand it's not our job to tell them, maybe legally, but we do have a moral obligation to let these people that we feed in this town know what is going on here. I'm sorry, guys, that's my interpretation. Moving on, I wanted to ask about the impact analysis of the traffic. I think Lieutenant Bailey asked a little bit about that. That is a bad corner, guys. It's a bad corner, okay, on any given day. I just walked to get coffee before we came here and almost got ran over, okay? I don't care if it's little tiny trucks, it is a bad corner. Summer's about to start, the kids are about to be walking over here to the summer camp. What are we gonna do about monitoring that traffic? Stop signs and things on the ground that says stop. People on their cell phones, you think anybody's looking at the ground today? Come on, okay? The problem today, we are a reactive world, not a proactive world. Morally, what can we do proactive to stop? Okay, and again, I can appreciate the fact that Voltaire is gonna give them probably the bulk of their business, but if she's already selling around the world, you know, I don't know why we need another manufacturer here in Mount Holly. Not right next door, just, that's my thing. And the thing about the traffic, just to hit on, the master plan said something of the nature, I may be wrong if I'm quoting it, that we are almost at the 85th percentile for traffic. And you know I come here all the time at the other meeting complaining about that road I live on. 85%. That was a 2024 master plan, and the data that was used for that traffic, when it came back at 85%, is very, very old. Everybody sitting here know how old that data was that was used. That is not current data that was used on that master plan that you guys that was just accepted.
Ms. Ford, you're coming up on 5 minutes, so I'll ask that you keep the remainder of your remarks brief.
Sure, no problem. And I guess, my thing is when they say it's gonna be 1 to 2 trucks, 7 to 10 employees. So what happens once the business grows? How many more trucks are we looking at adding? How many more employees are we looking at adding? As their gross and their net get higher and higher, as these sales get bigger and bigger. Thank you.
Does anybody have any remarks or responses from Ms. Ford before we call the next volunteer? No? All right. Mr. Villela, if you'd be so kind. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure, of course. David, 166 Ranconcas Road.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth?
Yes, I do, try to get here so you can get out of here. With all due respect, attorney, you're pretty good, I give you credit, but yeah, it does have an impact on you. It does have an impact on your neighbors, so whatever is going on, you should have talked to them, and they could have been here.
We did.
Well,
We met with them
I'm gonna
twice.
check with them tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'm gonna find out, because it does have an impact. Not only with them, but with the residents.
Sir, I'll ask that you address your
Sure,
remarks.
not a problem.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. Mount Holly's getting to be known as the haven capital of cannabis. You know, I don't know how many we're gonna have or continue to have, but my understanding was it was a limit at 4, and then it was a limit at 5, and now we're going to 6. And here we are. When is it gonna stop? I mean, if this continues, and have we really asked what the ingredients are? How much THC is in it? CBD? What is the chemical impound on it? Do we know? Do we know where it's going? Do we know if they can go down the block and get another one? And as far as the building's concerned, what about the entrance and exits? I haven't heard anything mentioned about that. Entrance for the rear, back is used, where are they gonna exit? Is there an exit door? The back, where they go in? They go in the front to Voltaire, or they go out? So that's another thing to probably address. I didn't hear that mentioned, I probably missed it somewhere, I didn't see the drawings. And I kinda asked the question, where do they live? Do they live near Mount Holly? Do they live in Mount? I heard Philadelphia, that's pretty good, why don't they do it there? I really don't see why we need to bring more cannabis places here. But, and we're giving them so many variants, I counted, at last count, 40 variants, 40 waivers, excuse me, variants, 40 waivers. Do we really need to do that? And, one on the board gave a good question. We need to find out, as far as the trucks are concerned, their trucks go around. The Beacon of Hope has big trucks, they park in the back. So they're gonna need, you can make an agreement with the landlord, with the landowner, that they can have a right of way to go in and out. And as far as traffic is concerned, you know, we need to control that a little more. Now, I've got more to say, but I know it's been a long night. Really take it into heart and really think about this and ask them the right questions. And the chemical impact is really important. Find out what the ingredients are and how it's gonna be done. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the public? Please state your name and address for the record.
Louis Lopez, 9811 I just want to question about the security. It's a live storage from front and back. In case they need to put a short footage or it'd be storage or it'd be
Not sure what.
I don't know, the security, if they were able to build that, to get up and running, does they have live footage, you know, they could see, I mean.
So I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. We did receive testimony about the security cameras and the live footage that will be taken. It sounds like there are very strict cannabis regulatory commission requirements that will
cover all that.
Yes, that will cover those spaces.
Okay, that's my only question, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
I'm sorry, I apologize, I just forgot. One quick one, really quick.
Okay.
What are they gonna give back to the town of Mount Holly? Let's get something back. If they do get in, if it does pass, let's get something that they're gonna give to the community. Like a company builds a big building, then it's quick. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I hear just a motion or any sort of discussion concerning the motion for this application? Madam Solicitor, be so kind as to sum up the application conditions and the other considerations from tonight.
George, do you have any closing or anything else that you want to bring?
Chairman, with the materials produced and the testimony heard, we believe it's proper and right for this board to grant the authority for my client to go forward and build out cannabis manufacturing facility. Thank you.
So one item that seeks a use variance, the parking variance, a couple other variances and design waivers, then they're also seeking a waiver of, aren't they seeking a waiver of the minor site plan?
No.
No?
No.
Sorry.
I think we're, I didn't think we were.
We reviewed the Mount site plan a lot.
Yes, a lot. That,
Sorry about that.
we beat that one to
3
death.
hours over the rest. Okay.
Use variance and design waivers, yes.
Right. And well, there's also.
Parking.
Both variances.
Both variances.
Yes.
Okay. So just the conditions that they've agreed to, so that there's analysis at the property as a condition of issuing the township issuing the CO. I guess when it's built and when the equipment in the exterior that's operational, because you wanna see how loud the HVAC and the chilling equipment is. Subject to the changes that for the landscaping, they'll work with the board's planner on the suggested changes for the landscaping, they'll update the architectural plans, which are subject to review by the board's professionals. All aspects of the operation that are regulated by the Cannabis Regulatory Commission, and they'll provide all filings to the state, to the township, so the township sees what's,
And that's just to the municipal clerk?
to the municipal clerk. Signage, no variance relief has been sought for the signage. They have described some wayfinding and some, safety provided, but they all comply with the size and number requirements. So no variance relief is sought for signage. They will revise the ADA parking space and work with the board's engineer with respect to that part. They've agreed jurisdictions or the entities exercising jurisdiction as stated in comment number 40, Mr. Alimo, provisions, as outlined in item number 40, subject to the 2.5% affordable housing contribution. They'll provide, once open operational, they'll be subject to the cannabis tax per the township ordinance. Mr. Alima suggested a report to ensure there's a systems for maintenance and responsibility of the and they will provide copies of the permits obtained from DEP. We'll install a stop sign and a do not enter sign, and will satisfy Mr. Lima's comment number 12.
So are we, I just wanna make sure, I think we're gonna have my engineer, Mr. Lima, work through it, because there's a couple of signs, you have to figure out where they go. So are we, we're just making it a subject to, not we're gonna do something, right? I think that's what we're gonna do.
Right, I was trying to describe what you.
Yeah, I mean, but yes, but that's, I agree with you, but I think it's to be determined exactly how it's gonna be done, is what I'm saying. I don't exactly know,
It consists of at least a stop, but do not enter the right turn.
right, and to the,
We gotta figure out where we're gonna put it.
right,
Yeah.
subject to Mr. Limo's review, because I don't actually know walking out of here where I'm putting it. So we're gonna have to work with him to figure that out.
You just know you're definitely placing.
I do know that, thank you.
Going to some of these comments, Mr. Lima's that are, some of the drawings, and number 12 was, as we just discussed, the minor stop, the no right-hand turn, the work with the boards. On that, we've already addressed the fire, suppression issue, that's not subject, because they're not gonna be firefighting on site, we've already talked about the event. They'll add documents for the set distance for the building, comments 15 to 16. We've already addressed the noise study. A 20 pad for the CO2, any permits to be obtained for that, because you said for the parking and CO2. And clearance for that.
We're gonna need to do both, right?
19 to 20.
I need Mr. Limo to review it, because it's gonna be impacted by the, yeah, parking. And then DEP is gonna have to sign off on it, because it's in the play area. Yeah, so, I think we have to comply with both of those, I think. DEP and the Lima.
Number 18, the disposal will be done by a private hauler consistent with CDC requirements. 26 and 28, we already talked about. Items there, and I want to get Lonnie's. Be addressed, I believe. Under the general comments, do have to receive the endorsement of the township, with the administrative code.
Yeah, I think we provided that already in the application, we provided a resolution of support to come here, we'll provide it again.
Provide that as a condition of
Yep.
approval. We've already provided the testimony about the cannabis class 2, addressed all those other comments. Comment 15, we've already talked about the stop sign, the do not enter. You revised the striping, comment 17. revise the parking stalls and work with the board's professionals on that. Comment 17, the handicap ADA parking sign, revise the twin residential, address comment number 23 relating to the landscaping, the species, work with boards on that. They provide a testimony, just add the note about the water service that it's indicated on the plans.
I think we're per Mr. Alimo's direction, we're taking the water service and the sewer service as drawings off the plan, right? Is that what we're doing?
The details,
Just adding it to the details.
taking them all.
Taking them off.
Sorry, the reverse, because you don't need anything there, right? Yeah,
Right.
taking it off.
According to the testimony.
Right.
Right, correct.
So we're removing
Instead of
the,
that.
we're removing the sewer water.
It's the remainder of those. About the traffic and the noise and all of that. So then there are various specs, anything else?
Variances and waivers, you know.
Okay, now, variances and waivers, okay. Okay.
Use?
No, easy one first.
Parking stalls.
Waivers for the parking areas to be illuminated, they're gonna tweak that, work with the board's professional on the lighting plan, because they already submitted that. They requested a design waiver for,
I don't think they're tweaking the lighting.
I think we're okay with the light.
We're granting the
You're
design
granting the
waiver for,
for
being
that
being de minimis under one in
Yes.
certain areas.
Certain areas, yeah.
Just minor areas.
And then there's 5 parking stalls that are undersized, so you
Yeah.
for those.
Yep, that's a long battery.
And then there are variances sought for, when they provided testimony that, they're gonna require all their employees to park off-site, and then they would.
So the only thing we don't know is how many parking spaces they have, right?
Right.
We have 11 or 12.
It's 12, so you
It
might
might get
ask for,
reduced to 11.
I'm gonna ask for 11,
yeah,
and then if it works out to be 12, it's okay, I
right,
think.
it's a bonus.
You skipped a design waiver, I think.
Yeah, we're getting to it.
Jump
Good for you, you wanna do the job?
You jumped
You
right
wanna do
in
the
for
job?
variances. I'm sorry, go ahead, continue, I'm sorry.
Discuss the lighting, the drive aisles, one's gonna be, you're gonna grant the waiver as to the drive aisles. They've already discussed that. Discuss the waiver for the size of the parking. Actually. Two variances for the parking, 2 loading spaces where they will be providing 1.
Yes.
Yeah, I had listed three.
No, that's it.
And then 11 parking spaces, for the variance based upon the existing needs. And then finally, they're seeking a use variance.
Right.
And that,
And this one, I
Go
got
ahead.
distracted from commenting when I shouldn't have. The truck work, did you mention that one? The truck work.
yeah,
Yes.
just the loading area, just,
Yes.
it's 2 is required, whereas 1 is provided, and that's gonna be worked out with the ADA
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
Okay, so then we get to the final piece de resistance, if you will, which is the use variance. This is not a permitted use in this zone. By Mr. Hawk, did recite the standard, which I agree with, that they've got to show, that the site is, it's an enhanced burden of proof. We've got to get 5 affirmative votes. We've got to show that there are special reasons for granting this, and they provided testimony as to what they feel is the benefits in terms of the reuse, the adaptive reuse of the back of the building, which is essentially empty, with the use that they feel doesn't require much delivery. The use of the parking lot by having their employees park off-site. And that's gonna be one of the conditions that they've agreed to. And they've also got to show that it advances purposes of planning, and they've cited several purposes. Purposes. So they think that it advances purposes of planning and the MLUL, but they also said that it doesn't have major impacts and it wouldn't impair the zoning plan, impair the zoning ordinance, or have they feel a negative impact on the neighborhood. And you're free to form your own conclusions about all of that. Whether you think that the use is super intense and it's gonna like disrupt things, or whether you agree with their testimony. And so you have to find that they have met that very heady criteria, showing that not only the positives outweigh the negatives, but there are special reasons for granting it, and it supports the purposes of the MLUL, and it won't offend the zoning ordinance or zoning ordinance. So that's the burden of proof. Those are the items. As I've always suggested, you should suggest that you do even if you vote no, you can do a test, because if you vote to deny, then you lose these, and that fails, you lose all the ability to have all the conditions. So is there a motion on this? And you should say whether it's a motion yes, and you adopt the findings or reasons of Mr. Hawk and the testimony submitted, subject to conditions. Is there a motion to do so?
I'll motion.
Based upon all the
Based upon
testimony submitted
the
and
testimony
conditions?
and all the
You
things.
find that they met their
Yes.
burden. Is there a second? Okay. So then we'll do a roll call, and if somebody wants to give a brief statement, yes, I do, no, I don't, here's what I have questions and concerns about, you're free to do that, to say thoughts on the application. All right, we'll do it.
Mr. Adler?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Dow?
No.
Chairman Klein?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Saucier?
Yes.
Mr. Stafford?
Yes, with the comment.
Mr. Adler was saying, possibly a business going under, a nonprofit business going under. Sometimes we do things not because it's required of us, but because it's the right thing to do. I hope you can both exist and thrive.
Tell you what, because of us, we have no need or desire to impact the way they do business at all. We've met with them a couple of times, and trying to work through these access issues. They're not the problem. It's their landlord and our landlord. It's not, none of the tenants have a problem coexisting and working together. Thank you.
So there were 5 affirmative votes, so the application is approved based upon those conditions, and I'll circulate a form of resolution in advance of the next.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. We're not done yet, though. Anybody who is not, yes, we still have regular public comments. So anybody who's here for regular public comments, please stick around.
I'm done.
Congratulations. I've done a lot. I don't think I got 5,000 though. That's a lot.
If you didn't,
Finally, the heyday, right?
You're down to vinyl? Yeah. Okay. My wife lived on Landis Avenue for a while. The administrator at the Vineland Nursing Home, and she lived, I guess it was early nineties, two bedroom, like, one story, like, apartment. Like, I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's
I will ask those associated with the applicant to quickly and quietly start to exit as we do need to proceed with the rest of the meeting. As they wrap up and exit, we will now open the floor to general public comment. General public comment, and since this was an issue with past comments, I will reserve the right to keep comments to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. We'll start in the first row. Anybody from the first row? Mr. Lopez.
I have two curious questions. If I were to have a two-story house and I want to convert it to a different type of house, like a swimming pool, 2 bathrooms, and another to that house, do I need to go to a planning board or
So that,
one reason?
it's one of the sorts of things that it's a house by house, lot by lot situation. Without knowing more, and assuming this is just hypothetical, there's situations where, in theory, depending on the zoning, it could go to the zoning officer, or it may need to come to the planning board, depending on exactly how it's currently zoned and what the changes involved would entail.
Are you doing interior work or exterior work?
No, interior, or it will be an inside.
So you're not expanding a house or?
No.
I misunderstood. I thought
Yeah,
you
okay,
said something about
inside.
adding a swimming pool. No, in that case, there is no reason that something like that would have to come.
You just get permits.
Yes,
Okay.
that
Talk to
too.
the construction official about what kind of permits you need.
Okay, my last question is, do anybody care if we change the house color outside to a pink, to a blue, or like any conflict, anything?
Governed by the land use.
Yeah, so that is outside of our jurisdiction. I can't comment on whether something like that exists, but if it does, it is not something within our purview.
Okay, just thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Mr. Lopez. Anyone else in the first row? State your name and address for the record.
David? Yeah, thank you. 166, Whoa, it's been a long night. Give you guys credit for holding in there and asking good questions and really going through it. But I do feel strongly that we're getting a little too many of the cannabis. I'm pro hospital, they want to expand. That's good, that attracts more students, more nurses, more. Don't see necessarily how they're gonna employ more people that really gonna be meaningful jobs, that the kids will actually go and go to grad school or medical school or anything to that effect. So, having said that, again, I appreciate your time, and I thank you, and I hope you think about this, and I hope whatever waivers, they really stick to it. I know it's gonna have an impact on the town. I go to other towns, and they go, oh yeah, you're Mount Holly, the cannabis town. That's what they know it's for. I really don't think we're a historical town. We're a beautiful town. We're a lovely town. We're good people like yourselves and the people who come here. So I really want to stick to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Your name and address for the record.
Maureen Taylor Ford, 117 Branch Street. Happy Monday again. Just quickly, just curious about this paperwork that they printed, this resolution, because it's only one sheet of paper. So if someone like myself who's just trying to come to these meetings and learn things, how would I know that resolution 2025-09, how would I know what that is? I mean, how do I know that as just a person coming here? I'm not a lawyer. I'm a military civilian person. How do I know what these things depict, like what just happened here?